It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as a released WWE Superstars had their non-compete clause waived. Kenny Omega takes a shot at Daniel Bryan on being the Elite, and CM Punk has given us yet another clue that he's set to debut in AEW at the first dance edition of Rampage. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first, we have an update on the Max Caster situation, as it seems that his time in AEW may have came to an end after an eBay listing has popped up with the rapping wrestler selling his wrestling gear. The listing includes Caster's wrestling tights as well as a pair of knee pads. The description of the item is even more interesting, as it suggests that he may be done with AEW or perhaps even wrestling. He wrote, "This set of gear has been worn on AEW Dynamite. I've worn this in matches against Chris Jericho, MJF, the Young Bucks, Jon Moxley, SCU, and more. I need some extra dollar this month and I don't think I'll be needing this stuff anymore. Get it off my hands. We'll personalize an autograph on knee pads at request. Perfect collector's item for AEW fans." The starting bid for the auction is $500, and it seems for whatever reason Caster is down on money. This follows a controversial rap that Caster cut on AEW Dark, which led to the segment being edited out before he was pulled from an indie event. As well as that, he was then cut from another episode of AEW Dark the next week. AEW President Tony Khan has criticized Caster for his actions, and it was also reported that he has been suspended without pay for 2 months, which could explain his need for money. Whilst the suspension hasn't been confirmed by a reliable source at this point, this story could suggest that it is in fact true, or perhaps that he's been let go altogether, as Caster's listing says that "I don't think I'll be needing this stuff anymore." A trademark filed on August 11th has surfaced ahead of the reunion of a popular tag team. AEW's Jon Moxley, real name Jonathan Good, has filed for 2 trademarks for merchandising purposes, the first being the Switchblades, as well as the Switchblade Conspiracy. The Switchblade Conspiracy is the name of Moxley's tag team with Sammy Callahan, who were active between the years of 2009 and 2011. They predominantly wrestled in CZW and WXW in Europe, as well as making sporadic appearances elsewhere. This trademark filing comes ahead of the duo's reunion at a Wrestling Revolver show on October 30th, which will take place in Clive, Iowa. Their opponents are yet to be revealed, however the reunion of the American Wolves, Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, has also been announced for the show, who could be their potential opponents. This past Friday on AEW Rampage, Fuego Del Sol battled AEW TNT champion Miro for not only the title, but for a contract with All Elite Wrestling. Despite losing, Fuego was given a contract by Tony Khan and Sammy Guevara, and it seems that this moment may have been kept as a surprise. Speaking on his Twitch stream this weekend, Fuego detailed the night's events, revealing the emotions that he was feeling, and said, "I stood up, I fought, hell of a match, fun night. Sammy Guevara's music hit, my heart dropped into my stomach because I knew what was happening in that moment. I was overwhelmed with emotion, I get goosebumps. Sammy was dressed nice and I didn't even think about it. I was so focused on the match that everything else was white noise. I was laser focused on Miro, it was perfect because I didn't see it coming." Fuego went on to talk about the backstage reaction to the segment, with everyone having a lot of praise for AEW's latest signing, including the likes of Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, the Young Bucks, and Mark Henry. He also revealed that Mike Bennett of Ring of Honor, as well as John Morrison and Drake Maverick of WWE, reached out to congratulate him. Despite his record of 1 win and 50 losses, Fuego del Sol remains one of the most over wrestlers with the AEW fanbase, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. WWE held a house show this past Saturday in Charlotte, North Carolina, the same night as AAA's TripleMania event in Mexico City. Despite being advertised for the house show, Charlotte Flair instead opted to travel to Mexico with her fiancé Andrade, who was challenging Kenny Omega for the AAA Mega Championship. Obviously, Charlotte wasn't shown on screen, however, she was backstage, as shown in a photo where she was pictured alongside AAA booker Conan and her father Ric Flair, who did make an appearance. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, WWE knew in advance that Charlotte would be in Mexico and that she had asked for time off to spend time with her family, and this was approved months in advance. Despite this, WWE and the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina continue to advertise the hometown hero for the show, knowing she wouldn't even be there. And speaking of the Flairs, we now have an update from Wrestling Inc. regarding the future of Ric Flair following his WWE release earlier this month. As I mentioned, Flair did show up at TripleMania on Saturday and played a part in the show. Flair would accompany his son-in-law Andrade El Idolo to the ring, which opens up the question of how he was able to appear for AAA so early after his release. Usually WWE main roster releases must wait 90 days before making any wrestling-related appearances, but according to the report, Flair's non-compete clause has been waived, therefore he can appear on any wrestling show he likes as soon as he likes. It was also noted that Flair worked the show free of charge, chartering his own private jet to be there at his own expense. With Ric Flair heading to AEW said to be a lock, we could be seeing the Nature Boy on AEW TV as soon as this week. Next up, it has been revealed that WWE are scrapping live episodes of NXT in favour of pre-recorded bulk tapings, with the changes set to be coming into place after TakeOver 36 this weekend. This is according to Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer. Alvarez took to Twitter to report the news and said, "It appears NXT is returning to taping shows in advance starting next Monday and Tuesday night. NXT taping schedule may be temporary, but for sure they're taping several episodes after TakeOver." This news follows recent reports that WWE higher-ups are looking to shake up the NXT product with the focus on larger, younger wrestlers, with WWE looking to cut any and all costs as to make them more profitable, potentially for a future sale, and a switch to a taped NXT schedule seems to be the next step. As we discussed in a recent news video, there has been a power struggle with the Black and Gold brand, with many employees attempting to undermine the current leader of NXT Triple H, following his failure to stop the rise of AEW. The Elite are back at it again with the inside jokes on this week's episode of Being the Elite. The first of which saw the Young Bucks joke that Kenny Omega had to lose the AAA Mega Championship at TripleMania because Charlotte Flair said so, with Don Callis joking that Andrade needed to win to stop Ric Flair quitting again. Of course, in the end, Omega did retain, but this seemed to be in reference to the fact that Ric Flair quit WWE due to the booking of Charlotte Flair. The trio then visited a toy store in Pittsburgh where AEW were this week, and as they looked through some wrestling figures, Kenny Omega picked up a 2-pack of The Fiend Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan. Omega acknowledged The Fiend but pretended he didn't know who Bryan was before covering him up with Kenny's own figure. The Elite were then shown looking for someone to play basketball with, before Kenny joked that 75% of the AEW roster are from WWE anyway, which means they failed in a real sport before failing in WWE. The Bryan skit is particularly interesting as reports state that he's in fact signed with AEW and is expected to debut at the Grand Slam edition of AEW Dynamite in the Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York. Hopefully this is the foreshadowing of a match between Omega and Bryan, a match no fan thought was possible this time last year. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you scroll down and drop a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head towards 20,000 subscribers. But now that you've done that, let's get on with the rest of the video. And finally, we have some more news from CM Punk's appearance on last night's Cage Fury Fighting Championships event, where the straight edge superstar has worked as a commentator since 2018. As we mentioned in a video earlier today, Punk and his broadcast partner made references to his reported upcoming wrestling return in AEW this Friday on AEW Rampage. It seems that we missed perhaps another clue on Punk's jacket, with Punk wearing a lapel based on the Chicago Bulls jersey with the name Punk above 2 X's. For the 1% of you that don't know, this week's AEW Rampage episode is airing live from the United Center, the home of the Chicago Bulls. Not only that, but 2 X's in Roman numerals is 20, and guess what date the event is going down? You guessed it, the 20th of August. It seems that Punk is leaving more clues for us in plain sight. All signs continue to point towards CM Punk's appearance in the United Center, and he certainly knows how to get us talking. And before you go, why not check out my video where I discuss 5 ways that AEW could book the debut of CM Punk.